Hey guys, welcome to my webinar. My name is Miranda. I am a licensed nutritionist and I have a master's degree in nutrition as well. I am here to provide you some information on how thoughts, moods, pace, and pleasure influence digestion, metabolism, and our psychology. And I am also part of a meetup group local in Minneapolis. It's the Minneapolis Holistic Nutrition Group. If you like what you see here, you can always join that group. Or if you'd like to work with me directly, one-on-one, you can reach me by checking out my website. That's www.thrivenutritionmn.com. And one of the things that we need to understand is that eating is complicated as an adult. And when we get older, we have busier lives, we may have different thoughts and feelings around food that we may have learned from like our close friends or our families, our role models. And so we really need to take a step back and unlearn some of our eating habits. And when we look at newborns and really young children, they all have instinctual understandings of some of the most basic things in life. And when we're born, we tend to trust in those instincts more, and we breathe more deeply, and we tend to eat only when we're hungry. And we eat until we're content, and we really didn't think too deeply about how food makes us either a good or bad person. And then we grow up, and we have all of these things entering our psyche, and they replace these primal understandings with more negative, potentially more negative false beliefs or fear, shame, self-doubt. Add in our crazy fast-paced lifestyle with different stressors and fast food convenience, sedentary lifestyles, and that can really influence and mess up our instinctual relationship with food. And now it's time to rise up to the occasion and relearn everything you know at the beginning all over again. And why? Why should we do this? Our frame of mind directly impacts metabolism to such a degree that how we eat and what we eat and feel profoundly influences how we digest a meal. And this research is presented by Mark David. He's the founder for the Institute of the Psychology of Eating. And most of my information that I will be presenting today is from him and his research. This is all important because we can only achieve and sustain optimum metabolism and digestion when we eat, exercise, and live under an optimum emotional state. When you create this optimum experience for yourself and your mind and body and breath, all of those will naturally align into a synergistic state. This then means that you will burn calories at an optimum rate. You will digest and absorb nutrients at peak efficiency. Your metabolism will increase and your immunity will be enhanced. You'll step out of the stress/fight or flight response and into your own natural rhythm. The result is you will feel more alive, energized, and abundant. And you might be thinking, so wait, my thoughts and beliefs affect my digestion, metabolism, ability to burn fat, and detox? The answer is yes, yes, and yes. During this presentation, you will learn in depth how you think about yourselves and about the food that you eat has a profound effect on physiology. These effects can either promote or inhibit digestion, increase or decrease the absorption of nutrients, flare up or turn down inflammation, alter hormone levels, and either speed up or slow down your metabolism. And ultimately, that can impact whether or not you stay at your desired weight. The old thought is, calories in, calories out. It's very basic. And it's not just about what to eat or what you eat, but rather there's a whole other dimension of what sets the optimal foundation for your health, and that's how you eat. And we'll look at how relaxation, awareness, pleasure, and thought influence our metabolism and digestion. One of those steps, like I mentioned earlier, is relaxation. And so for the next couple seconds here, I would encourage you to take a few deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, and make sure that your shoulders are relaxed. So lower your shoulders, and make sure that when you do breathe, your belly is also moving. Hopefully you've had the chance to get in about 3 to 5 deep breaths before we talk about this stressful life that we live. Our culture lives in a dizzying pace, and it is really hard to stay happy and healthy at this pace. We suffer from an avalanche of body ills and ailments that is strictly from the pace that we live our life. We're at the kind of speed that a lot of the things we do, we just kind of go through the motions, and we're sort of unconscious through our daily tasks. And it requires that we push ourselves beyond our body's natural capacity, and leaves us then at the end of the day unfulfilled and exhausted. There is a remedy for this speed disease, and it's called slowing down. When you think about eating and our stressful lifestyles, a lot of people end up eating under stress, and it's super common. It's actually socially acceptable and often a prerequisite for managing a job, maintaining a family, or having a life. If you're a fast and furious eater, it's so important to change gears. And that's because the slower you eat, the faster you metabolize, and the better your body can repair. Can you recall what your body senses are after you eat during a state of anxiety or stress? Most people report that they have gastric symptoms like heartburn, cramping, gas, digestive pains, belching, intense hunger, and minimal satisfaction from the meal. Those are not good things to have. The reason why there are such adverse effects from eating under stress is that the body is in a classic fight or flight response, which is known as sympathetic nervous response. This feature of the nervous system is really brilliant. It's a safety mechanism that has supported us over thousands of years to survive life-threatening events, which could be from hostile attackers, natural disasters, and really overcoming anyone or anything. You can look at the chart here on the right, and it does show sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous responses, and it's either one or the other that you're in. And you can see sympathetic response initiates dilated pupils, there's less salivation, you have more dilation in your bronchioles, there's inhibited digestion, stimulates glucose released by the liver. There's also epinephrine and norepinephrine release. And then if you look at the parasympathetic response, the relaxation or the rest and digest, you have better saliva secretion and you have better digestion and your gallbladder is stimulated. This moment that the stress response is activated, your heart rate speeds up, your blood pressure increases, your breathing quickens, hormones that provide immediate energy, like I mentioned, the noradrenaline adrenaline, insulin, and cortisol are released into the bloodstream. That is a good thing when you're trying to run away from a predator or survive a car crash. But when it's chronically released, which is pretty much caused by living in this modern lifestyle, these hormones are also released all the time, and it directs the body to store fat, and it can lead to insulin resistance. Blood flow, like we mentioned, is rerouted away from the intestines, and it goes to the head for quick thinking and for limbs to move to provide, the fight or flight response. And this all means that the digestive system effectively shuts down. And from a biological standpoint, you don't need to waste energy digesting your food when you're fighting for survival. In modern times, there are a lot of things that activate the stress response, some that you may not even have considered. Picture yourself in the morning rushing to work and you're late, and then you're stuck in traffic, and then you're munching on a muffin or you're stopping through fast food and thinking about everything but the meal you're eating. Then you're thinking about work demands and family demands. During these moments, which could be all day, every day, the body hasn't a clue that what you're experiencing is not life-threatening, but because your body is genetically programmed to initiate that fight or flight response, the brain then has an influence on digestive shutdown. And it can take several minutes or several hours for the body to kick back into a normal digestive response. Basically, this means you can eat the healthiest meal on earth, but if you eat it in an anxious state, your digestive system is dramatically shut down, diminished, and your mood affects your food, is basically what that means. As we mentioned before, salivary enzyme content in the mouth is reduced. The breakdown of protein, fat, and carbohydrates in the stomach is impaired, and blood flow to the small intestines is decreased as much as fourfold. This causes a decrease in the body's ability to absorb vitamins, minerals, and other nutrients. And so instead of being in the fight or flight response, you want to activate the parasympathetic nervous response, or the rest, digest, and repair mode. And so moving forward, now and forevermore, fast food is out and slow food is in. What can you do to be a relaxed eater? Well, the first thing you can do is to determine what kind of eater you are. And that can just assess, how do you eat? A lot of us, again, are going through life unconsciously and we don't pay attention when we're eating. So really, when you are eating next, take some time and don't multitask and see, what kind of eater are you? Are you a slow, moderate, or fast eater? If you're moderate or fast, your goal is to transform into a slow eater. Becoming a slow eater allows the brain and the head the proper amount of time to initiate digestion. And this is called cephalic phase digestion, or the head phase digestion. The cephalic phase of gastric secretion occurs even before food enters the stomach. And that results from the sight, smell, thought, and taste of your food. All right, so you've already determined if you're a fast, moderate, or slow eater. Your goal is to be a slow eater. One way you can do that is by eating in a relaxed state. It's much easier to eat slow when you are relaxed. There are two different ways that you can easily stimulate your relaxation before you eat. And one of them is giving yourself some more time to eat. And then the other one is deep breathing. It's so important to give yourself enough time to eat each meal. You can trust that the world can wait while you take a few more minutes with your food and reclaim your right to dine. One of the first steps would be to increase how much time you give yourself to eat. You can do that by upping slightly how much time you take. So if you're eating in 5 minutes, your next step would be 10. Or if it's 10 minutes, your next step would be 15. You can also try to rearrange your home and work schedules as best as you can to provide you with some more time. You can honestly look to see where you can find those extra moments. You can eat in only the sitting position. Also, choose not to multitask or engage in any form of work while you dine. And have a secret competition with others while you're eating. If you're the last to finish your meal, you win. If you're thinking, okay, Miranda, that's cool. I can probably increase how much time I take to eat. However, I don't always have time to 20 minutes to eat a meal and I feel pressed for time. What can I do? If you notice that you're feeling pressed for time and you're feeling rushed and you're feeling anxious or stressed out, you can activate your relaxation response in less than a minute and move your body into the maximum nutritional metabolism. And that super fast shortcut is by conscious breathing. It's interesting to note that every emotional state has a corresponding brainwave frequency and breath pattern. When we are in a stress state, if we are purposely adopting a deep and rhythmic breathing pattern characteristic of a relaxed state, that the central nervous system thinks we are actually relaxed. So we can literally fool our own physiology if we are stressed, but adopt that relaxed breathing pattern. A relaxed breathing pattern would include breathing deep into your belly until your lungs are almost full. Hold your breath for several seconds and fully exhale. You can repeat this 5 times and see how you feel. If you need a few more breaths, you can increase to 10. It's important to also check in before every meal or snack and ask yourself, am I about to eat under stress? Is my mind in high gear? If yes, pause. Then take 10 long, slow, deep breaths. When you are relaxed, you are able to burn more fat. Have you ever been on vacation, eaten more than usual, and lost weight or maintained your weight? There is an explanation. When you're on vacation, many of us move from that chronic sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight dominance, into that wonderful parasympathetic relaxation state. Our mind changes the metabolism that we can eat more and yet still lose weight. Numerous clinical studies have shown that conditions with high cortisol are strongly associated with fat accumulation. That's because one of cortisol's chemical responsibilities is to signal the body to store fat and not burn muscle or not build muscle. Many people complain that even though they are eating a lower calorie diet and exercising more, they still can't seem to lose weight. AKA, they're doing the old calories in, calories out model, which doesn't work. And this is why. Stress can be the reason. This is especially the case for those that seem to gain weight around the midsection, which is a sign of excess cortisol production, and it has an effect of fattening the belly. Couple this with the typical high carbohydrate snacks we consume when feeling anxious or unloved, and we pave the way for quick and easy weight gain. It is totally counterproductive to stress yourself out about weight loss because the same stress causes you to put the weight on. Again, it's totally counterproductive to stress yourself out about weight loss because the same stress causes you to put the weight on. That is mind-blowing information, but it makes so much sense. When it comes to weight loss, then it's important to relax and count blessings as it is to count our calories. Imagine yourself worrying about your weight, eating a forced and boring diet, and convinced about your weight and convinced of your unworthiness to exist if you don't shrink your body down to some perfect imaginary size. These self-perpetuated messages will literally put you in a state of chronic low-level stress. Though you're consuming less calories by dieting, you're producing more cortisol and insulin, which signals the body to gain weight. In medical terms, chronic stress decreases thermic efficiency, your ability to burn calories and metabolize stored fat. The bottom line is worrying about fat increases fat. Anxiety about weight loss causes your body to put fat on and retain it. If you're the kind of person who seems to be doing everything right for weight loss but are stuck in the same plateau, ask yourself about stress. Do you live in a hurried life? Are you eating at warp speed? Does your job require that you live in a state of fight or flight? If so, there's no amount of calorie counting or treadmilling that'll get you to where you want to go. Your task is to do something of the greatest possible difficulty. Relax. Stop producing so much cortisol. Take a deep breath and into your life. Be a little bit more at peace and give your calories a chance to burn. Some additional eating tips to help you relax include light a candle, play some soft music, decorate your eating environment so it's a nice place to be. If you are ordering takeout, find a peaceful place outdoors to enjoy your meal. At restaurants, choose a place that has a relaxed and nourishing atmosphere. Dine with eating companions who inspire you, and let the conversations be elevating and free from negativity or gossip. Use eating as a time to let go of all of your worries and work. You can resume worrying and working once you're relaxed and nourished from your meal. Also, pay attention to your posture. A straight spine allows for further breaths. And again, those shoulders, make sure that those shoulders are relaxed. A lot of times we feel like, yeah, okay, I'm relaxed, I'm deep breathing, but our shoulders are still tense. And that can be a good sign of physical sign that you can use to also sense or determine your stress state. Another last point here would be to incorporate breathing breaks during your workday, and that can allow you to go outside and get some fresh air, get some sun, hear the birds, and that can benefit even if it's just for a few minutes. Our next point is to evaluate and explore eating and pleasure. Eating with pleasure, and also the pleasure from eating that we get. Like all organisms on the planet, we humans are genetically programmed to seek pleasure and avoid pain. This is to promote propagation of the species. We need food to survive, to reproduce, so inherently eating should be pleasurable. When you're turned on by food, you turn on metabolism. A study that was done examines just that. Researchers from Sweden and Thailand joined forces to determine how cultural preferences for food affect the absorption of iron from a meal. A group of women from each country was fed a typical Thai meal: rice, veggies, coconut, fish sauce, and hot chili paste. As fate would have it, Thai women really enjoy Thai food, but Swedish women don't. This proved to be a crucial metabolic fact because even though all of the meals contain the exact amount of iron, the Swedish women absorbed only half as much iron as the Thai women. The exact same thing happened when Thai women were given Swedish food of hamburger, mashed potatoes, and string beans. Then the other part of the study was to separate the Thai women into two groups. One received the previously mentioned Thai meal, and the others were given the exact same meal, but the meal was blended and turned into mush. Just imagine your favorite meal all whipped up together in baby food. Even though the nutrient content was the same for each meal, the women who ate the blender meal absorbed 70% less iron. Once again, the same results were seen for their Swedish counterparts who had their Swedish meal turn into a frappe. The bottom line: remove vitamin P, pleasure, and the nutritional value of our food plummets. Add vitamin P and your meal is metabolically optimized. If you're the kind of person who eats foods that are quote unquote good for you, even though you don't like them, or if you think you can have a lousy diet and make up for it by eating strange tasting, vitamin fortified protein bars, or if you've simply been banishing pleasure because you don't have enough time to cook or find a scrumptious meal, then you aren't doing yourself any nutritional favors. You're slamming the door shut on a key metabolic pathway. There are a lot of different chemical clues to pleasure. Consider the chemical CCK. This substance is produced by the body in response to protein or fat in meals and performs a number of versatile functions. First, it directly aids digestion by stimulating the small intestine, pancreas, gallbladder, and stomach. Second, when it's released by the hypothalamus, part of the limbic system of the brain, it shuts down appetite. And last, CCK stimulates the sense of pleasure in the cerebral cortex, the highest portion of the brain. This means that the same chemical that functions to metabolize our meal also tells us it's time to finish that meal and makes us feel good about the entire experience. It shows us how pleasure, metabolism, and a naturally controlled appetite are interwoven to the core. Most people think that pleasure is completely separate from the nutritional process and serves no metabolic function. We believe that if a food makes us feel good, the body is automatically stimulated to eat more. And the actions produced by CCK in the brain tell us a whole new story. There are some other chemical cues that are produced when you have lack of pleasure. In the absence of pleasurable eating, one of the chemicals that increases our appetite is neuropeptide Y. This peptide tells us to search for food. It's naturally elevated in the morning, which makes sense because that's when our body is readying itself for action. Neuropeptide Y is also elevated whenever we are deprived of food. Its presence is particularly enhanced after dieting. Whenever we sink into a low blood sugar state, which usually means we are also in a low mood, neuropeptide Y is increased and stimulates us to consume carbohydrates. So if you deny yourself the pleasure of food through a low-calorie eating diet, or if you restrict yourself to a fun-free diet, the body responds by chemically demanding pleasure and satisfaction. The lesson that neuropeptide Y teaches us is that we cannot escape the biological imperative to party and enjoy. Another important chemical to address is endorphins. The class of chemicals known as endorphins are typically well known for a lot of people. They are the pleasure chemicals in our brain. These substances are naturally produced throughout the body, most notably in the brain and digestive system, and their goal is to make us happy. The simple act of eating raises our levels of endorphins. This tells us that eating is inherently pleasurable and from a biochemical standpoint. What's more unusual about endorphins is that not only are they molecules of pleasure, but they also stimulate fat mobilization. In other words, the same chemical that makes you feel good also burns body fat. Isn't that great to know? I think that's awesome. Furthermore, the greater the endorphin release in your digestive tract, the more oxygen and blood that will be delivered there. This means increased digestion, assimilation, and ultimately greater efficiency in calorie burning. Of course, I'm not giving you the green light to eat a ton of desserts or junk food and say that you'll burn it all as long as you feel pleasured. But the point is that the chemistry of pleasure is intrinsically designed to fuel metabolism. Another important thing to mention is that pleasure catalyzes the relaxation response. We already talked about how relaxation is super important for digestion. Let's talk about it a little bit more. The key to pleasure's powerful effect on balancing your appetite is that it promotes a physiologic relaxation response. The times we overeat most are when we are anxious, stressed, or unaware. A relaxed, pleasured eater has natural control. A stress eater promotes more circulating cortisol, the stress hormone that keeps us coming back. What's amazing is that cortisol desensitizes us to pleasure. This is another one of the brilliant functions of this chemical. When you're in a fight or flight response and trying to escape, you don't want your brain to be in a feel-good mode and get sidetracked looking for chocolate. All you need to focus on at that time is survival. When cortisol desensitizes us from pleasure in our day-to-day stresses, we need to eat more food to feel the same amount of pleasure as when we are relaxed. This means that if you're afraid of pleasure or anxious about gaining weight or frightened to eat dessert, you will generate more cortisol. This chemical will swim through your bloodstream, numbing you to pleasure and ironically creating the very self-fulfilling prophecy you fear from the beginning. If I eat something fun, I won't be able to stop. Stop eating low health, low pleasure, mass-produced food. Stop pretending to love low-calorie, no-fat, artificially sweetened desserts. Otherwise, your experience of joy will never measure up to its potential. Pleasure is the essential antidote. Choose your pleasures with great care, choose them wisely, and enjoy them deeply. The last component I'd like to talk about is our thoughts. One of the most fundamental building blocks of nutritional metabolism is our relationship with food. It's the sum total of our innermost thoughts and feelings about what we eat. Consider the word relationship. Each of us, whether we know it or not, is in an intimate, lifelong, committed union with eating. It's not by accident that the same words that describe our relationships with people equally characterize our relationship with food. Love, hate, pleasure, pain, expectations, disappointments, excitement, boredom, uncertainty, change. This relationship with food is as steep and revealing as we might ever have. How each of us thinks about food is so profoundly relative that if a group of us were to look at the same plate of food, no two people would see the same thing. For example, if we have a plate of gluten-free pasta, chicken, and salad, a woman wanting to lose weight would see calories and fat. An athlete trying to gain muscle would look at the same meal and see the chicken and focus on protein. A vegetarian would see a distasteful sight of a dead animal and wouldn't want to touch anything on the plate. However, a chicken farmer, on the other hand, would be proud to see a good piece of meat. What is amazing is that each of us, or each of these people, would metabolize the same meal quite differently in response to their unique thoughts. What you think and feel about food is as important as the determinant of its nutritional value as its effect on body weight as actual nutrients themselves. Here's how the science works. The information highway of brain, spinal cord, and nerves is like a telephone system for which your mind communicates with your digestive organs. Let's say you're about to eat an ice cream cone. The notion and image of that ice cream occurs at the higher center of the brain, the cerebral cortex. From there, information is relayed electrochemically to the limbic system, which is considered the lower portion of the brain. The limbic system regulates emotions and key physiological functions such as hunger, thirst, temperature, sex drive, heart rate, and blood pressure. Within the limbic system is a pea-sized collection of tissues known as the hypothalamus. That integrates the activities of the mind with the biology of the body. In other words, it takes sensory, emotional, and thought input that transduces this information into physiological responses. All right, so what you think about ice cream? Either it's delicious or maybe you feel some guilt about it. We'll see how each of those scenarios works. If the ice cream is your favorite flavor, like chocolate, and you consume it with a full measure of delight, the hypothalamus will modulate this positive input by sending activation signals via parasympathetic nerve fibers to the salivary glands, esophagus, stomach, intestines, pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. Digestion will be stimulated, and you'll have a fuller metabolic breakdown of the ice cream while burning its calories more efficiently. If you're feeling guilty about eating the ice cream or judging yourself for eating it, the hypothalamus will take this negative input and send signals down at the sympathetic fibers of the autonomic nervous system. This initiates inhibitory responses in the digestive organ, which means you'll be eating your ice cream but not fully metabolizing it. It may stay in your digestive system longer, which can increase calorie absorption, diminish your population of healthy gut bacteria, and increase the release of toxic byproducts into the bloodstream. Furthermore, signals in the nervous system can decrease your calorie burning efficiency, which would cause you to store more of your guilt-infused ice cream as body fat. The thoughts you think about the food you eat instantly become reality in your body via the central nervous system. There's also hormonal influences. Our thoughts can influence our thyroid hormones, for example. We'll talk about how well-functioning thyroid can be impacted by our thoughts. And most people know that a well-functioning thyroid is the key for a healthy metabolism. Interestingly enough, a healthy attitude towards ice cream promotes thyroid hormone release, which increases your output of digestive hormones and the motility of the digestive tract and revs up the metabolic rate of almost every cell in the body. All of this by not taking a thyroid pill, but loving and respecting your ice cream cone. On the other hand, anxious thoughts about ice cream would inhibit thyroid hormone, which translate into decreased metabolism and an increase in fat deposition. It can also trigger stress hormone release, which we've seen causes inefficient digestion, nutrient wasting, calcium loss, and weight gain. And I want to put out a disclaimer here. I'm not saying we can eat high sugar processed foods without any harm if we believe it's good for us. However, what I am suggesting is that what we believe about any substance we consume can powerfully influence how it affects the body. Every day, millions of people eat and drink while thinking strong and convincing thoughts about their meal. For instance, women in various countries show little interest in eating non-fat foods, counting calories, or restricting their pastry intake. Furthermore, they don't relate to treadmills and jogging, and they eat more fat than American women, and yet they're happier, healthier, and thinner. They believe the food they eat will have a positive effect on their bodies. Compare this with many American women who are culturally conditioned to worry about grams of fat, fear food, and ceaselessly diet. Can you see how this becomes a self-fulfilling metabolic prophecy through the power of the placebo? If you found this presentation interesting, you can learn more. I will be hosting through my meetup group an Overcoming Eating Challenges group to further discuss how to generate more awareness, trust and pleasure, and a better sense of ease with eating. And that can be at the Minneapolis Holistic Nutrition Group. And then this replay will be posted on my website. So thank you so much for listening in. Hopefully you learned something. And until next time, have a wonderful day.